Wrestling is formulaic when it comes to setting up a show. Find a place to rent, set up the ring and other things, put some seats in the place, and put on a show. Whether it's a stadium seating 85,000 or a rec center seating 50, this is how it goes 90% of the time. The other 10%? Well, that involves segments of the show not concocted in the area. The Offsite segment has been used to break up the monotony of the show, and while some have been poor, if not forgettable, some have been nothing short of classics. Whether it's because of unforgettable moments or just silly fun, these skits and matches were more memorable not for being in the arena, but for having a road trip to another location. We are going to look at some of these today, as I am Rob from the We Are Marks crew. Please hit that like and subscribe button, and these are the top 10 Offsite segments in WWE history. Number 10, the Hardcore title. We start this list off with multiple segments, so it might be cheating a bit. In November of 1998, Vince McMahon gave his hand-picked puppet Mankind the Hardcore title. It was supposed to be a joke, but took on a personality of its own in the Attitude Era. And while it never was considered prestigious, it did give multiple mid-carders something else to fight over. It was won in February of 2000 by Crash Holly. He then went on to proclaim that he was such a fighting champion that he introduced the 24/7 rule. He would defend his title against anyone, anywhere, as long as a referee was present to count the pin. And with that, the chaos began. Now, usually it was just a gimmick to be done throughout house shows, but there were some comical segments set up on Raw as well. One of the memorable ones was during the March 16, 2000 SmackDown when Crash Holly was at Funtime USA. The Headbangers went after the Hardcore title and chased him around the play area trying to track him down. It was a little cat and mouse game that had Crash sliding down kids' slides and going through ball pits, ended by the Headbangers not being able to decide who should pin Crash and Elroy Jetson scampering away. Just plain old silly wrestling. A product of its time, the 24/7 rule was just fun, and it gave wrestlers like Crash Holly a gimmick to sink their teeth into. They tried to replicate the magic years later with the 24/7 title, but this was special in the moment, specifically the moment of the Attitude Era. Number 9, Kane and Daniel Bryan, Anger Management. Odd couple tag teams are nothing new in the WWE. When a star has nothing better to do, you can bet they get put together with somebody who is the polar opposite of them personality-wise. Kane has been a bunch of these pairings. In the Attitude Era, he had X-Pac. In the beginning of the Ruthless Aggression Era, he had RVD. But during the PG Era in 2012, he had Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan and Kane were feuding with each other, and when General Manager AJ Lee had enough of their hatred towards each other, she decided to send them to Anger Management. Enter Dr. Shelby and his therapy group sessions. Starting out with Bryan explaining how it sucks to work for his ex-girlfriend, to the bonkers backstory of Kane. Every segment was silly fun. Even the yes chants in a diner that resembled the iconic scene from When Harry Met Sally was a hit. This would go on for a few weeks, with the two deciding that their therapy worked enough that they should form a tag team. This would help make Team Hell No into more of a fan favorite than what they would have been. Fans were always going to cheer for Bryan, but without these segments, the team would have just felt like filler for two guys with nothing better to do. This was also a way to bring more character out of Bryan, helping him cement himself as the real people's champion and propelling him into another stratosphere. Also a fun fact, Harold from these sessions might look familiar to you AEW fans, as he is played by SCU's own Scorpio Sky. Number 8, Big Show's dad's funeral. The Big Boss Man and the Big Show were feuding in 1999. For reasons that I can only believe involved who could use the moniker Big. Nope, sorry, wrong company. The Boss Man decided that it was best to attack Show personally. Really personally. He went after the Big Show's recently deceased father. Now in real life, Paul Wright's father passed years before this, but in kayfabe on Raw, he passed during this feud. The Big Boss Man started out small, by giving his condolences through a condescending poem, to getting a hold of the Big Show's mom. But it was during Papa Show's funeral that made the feud memorable. What started as a normal funeral ends in chaos, as the Boss Man shows up in a cop car with a megaphone saying he's glad Show's father is dead. He then raised the funeral and hooks up the coffin to the back of the patroller and starts to drive away. The scene ends with a distraught Big Show jumping on top of the casket and being dragged along by the Boss Man. This is Attitude Era nonsense at its finest, and many people's taste will differ on this segment, but nobody can deny how memorable it was. Ironically though, this wasn't even the worst thing Boss Man did in 1999, as this feud came right after the infamous Kettle from Hell match. Number 7, Stone Cold and Booker T in a supermarket. Nowhere was safe from the wrath of the Texas Rattlesnake. Booker T found this out the hard way. During the invasion angle, Booker T and Stone Cold were on the alliance. Don't ask why. The invasion angle was a mess. After they lost the Survivor Series match and the alliance disbanded, Vince McMahon hired Booker to make sure that Austin would never win the Undisputed title, making the future king public enemy #1 in the eyes of the Bionic Redneck. So when Booker T was trying to do some shopping at a grocery store during the December 9th episode of SmackDown, he thought he was safe and let his guard down. Austin was on a mission though and tracked him down. Booker heard over the intercom Austin's voice and got paranoid. He attacked the wrong bald guy and heard a crack of a beer opening. The look on his face says it all. What happened next is the most insane thing you will see with produce. Austin whooped Booker's behind all over the store, pummeling him with various foods and condiments, throwing him into a cart and driving him around, singing about pizza, all while drinking beer. Book tried to lock him in a cold storage freezer, but Austin walked right out of it drinking some milk. The scene ends when the police are called and Austin runs away. This was just anarchy with two guys who knew exactly what they were supposed to do. Austin loved these type of shenanigans, and Booker T knew when his character should just take the piss and have a comedic side. Add in the people looking on in absolute shock, and you have one of the most memorable segments of the Ruthless Aggression era. Number 6, Dom gets arrested. Speaking of police, we have a segment that added on to a character's persona. After months of trying to get him to come to the dark side, Dirty Dom finally turned on his father and Edge to join the Judgment Day in September of 2022. So it came to nobody's surprise that his father did not want him around for the holiday season. That did not stop Dom from showing up to his abuelo's house on Christmas Eve though. He was part of the family after all. He tried walking in with his girlfriend Rhea Ripley. Rey Mysterio tried to get them to leave, but Dom refused, saying he belonged there just as much as the rest of the family. Rey and Dom stepped outside, and when Dom wanted Rey to hit him, Rey refused. Dom pushed his father, causing Dom's mother to step in. She ended up slapping Rhea, and that's when the cops showed up. Rhea tried to say that they were assaulted, but the cops arrested Dom for trespassing. The segment ends with Dom sitting in the back of the cop car, pleading with Rhea not to let them take him to prison and to call Finn Balor and Damian Priest. Dom was taken away with a screaming Rhea Ripley. Now, I'm not sure if this was supposed to be taken seriously or not, but this was during the time when Dirty Dom was not to be taken seriously. And the next couple of weeks hammed up the arrest perfectly, with Corey Graves adding on what a tough man he was surviving in the yard, with everyone knowing that he was in a holding cell only for a night. Silly, yes, but it helped add on to the annoying character arc of Dominic Mysterio, and helped him get more over as the irritable heel that we all loved to hate. Number 5, DX invades WCW. The Monday Night Wars were a real thing. The battle for the ratings between WWF and WCW went at an all-time high in April of 1998, with the Federation gaining more and more momentum. Behind the rise of Stone Cold and The Rock, the WWF ended the 83-week winning streak of Nitro on April 12th of that year and started trading wins with the Turner-based promotion. It was on April 27th of that year when the two companies booked themselves half an hour away from each other in Virginia. Vince had a great idea. He would get DX to go down to Norfolk on a tank or a Jeep with a turret on it and invade WCW. And thus began the trek from Hampton to Norfolk, with Hunter and the gang riding the streets with a megaphone, yelling about how great the Fed is compared to their rivals. When they got to the Norfolk Arena, they started getting the fans who were waiting to get in to cheer DX with them. They tried to ride into the building, only to have the gates closed on them. When they realized they wouldn't get in, they started banging on the gate and asking for their buddies or Eric Bischoff to let them in. Now, over the years, this story has been embellished a little bit due to who won the Monday Night Wars, but it was still shocking to see something of this nature happen. Bischoff would mention the results of the pre-taped Raw shows constantly, and who could forget the Nacho Man and Huckster skits from the WWF? But never did the other companies try to go on the other one's show, let alone cause this much of a commotion. So while it wasn't the turning of the tides that Papa H and company would love to have you believe, it is still worthy of a mention on lists such as these. Also, the rumors of what could have happened if they were allowed in the building is just as entertaining. Like what would have happened if Meng/Haiku would have opened that door? Number 4, The Rock throws Stone Cold off a bridge. There are a lot on this list from the Attitude Era. The reasons behind that is simple. There was no such thing as boundaries between 1997 and 2001. That includes arenas. Austin was fresh off beating The Rock at WrestleMania for the second time in April of 1999, but their feud was far from over. The Rock wanted revenge and thought the best way to do it was to bait Stone Cold with his prized possession, the Smoking Skull belt. The Great One took Austin's belt to a bridge and threatened to throw it in the river, a callback to the time where Steve threw The Rock's Intercontinental belt off of a bridge. He told Mr. Chili to come out and get it. Austin drove to the bridge and a brawl broke out. The Rock was the victor in the scuffle, and then he proceeded to throw the Texas Rattlesnake on the other side of the guardrail. A couple of right hands later, and Austin, well, a dummy who was wearing camo, plummeted to the water. The Rock then said, "Take your piece of trash belt with you," and threw it into the river after him. This was a moment that added to the mystique of the rivalry that defined the Attitude Era. There were plenty of things that The Rock and Austin did together, but this one showed just how dastardly the People's Champ could be, and it added fuel to the fire for their rematch at Backlash the next month. Oh, and by the way, Austin was fine. He was back on Raw the next week. Number 3, the Boneyard match. The cinematic matches get a lot of hate, and for good reason too. But the COVID era made WWE get a little more creative when it came to wrestling, mainly since there were no fans to sell tickets to. So there were plenty of them to go around, and while some were straight awful, others had their moments of fun. But the best of the bunch has got to be the Boneyard match. AJ Styles decided it would be a good idea to try to get under the skin of The Undertaker after the dead man cost him the prestigious to Walk Mountain Trophy at Crown Jewel 2020. He was doing a good job of it too, using his real-life wife Michelle McCool and even calling him Mark. Nobody calls the Taker Mark. The Phenomenal One and Undy were on a collision course for WrestleMania, but then COVID happened, and the door opened for something that was truly unique. The match itself is something out of a cheesy B-rated movie, but that is what adds to the mystique of it. Fighting around a spooky farmland, Styles and Taker were able to blend action and a story perfectly. Taker looked like a broken old man at one point. That is until Styles was ready to bury him. And then, the sight of the greatest meme of all time happened. Taker used the spooky wooky light of the urn to turn the tables around, tombstoning Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson back to TNA while dragging Styles to his grave. This match was probably more than what we could have asked for from Mean Mark in 2020. The cinematic nature of it gave them time to piece together the story being told without having to worry if Taker's body could keep up with Styles. And Mr. Calloway driving off on his bike with his symbol burning in the background was the perfect way to end the scene. And hopefully, Undertaker's career. Number 2, Stone Cold confronts Brian Pillman. Much like the cinematic match, there have been a few home invasion angles. Shout out to when Edge invaded John Cena Sr.'s house to slap him, and when Triple H broke into Orton's house to throw him through a door. But we are going to look at the one that almost got WWE kicked off of USA Network. Brian Pillman was at home recovering from ankle surgery that was caused by Steve Austin, a name that has popped up constantly on this list. Austin wanted to finish the job and went to the Pillman home. A crazed Pillman started saying that if Austin came into his home, he was going to kill him. As Austin forced his way into the Pillman residence, the former Bengal produced a gun. As Austin got closer, the feed cut out for a second, and then came back on with people huddled around Pillman and trying to calm him down. Vince McMahon kept asking where was Austin and if shots were fired. As I said, this segment will go down in infamy for what happened outside of the world of wrestling. The USA Network had no clue about the gun angle and were not too happy about the situation. There were public and written apologies from the WWE for it, and for what it's worth, Bruce Pritchard has said on his podcast that they told the network about the angle and they were fine with it, until they got backlash from sponsors about it. So yeah, even though I said before there were no boundaries in the Attitude Era, apparently gun violence was one of them. Oh, and Austin was fine again. Next week on Raw, he was raising hell like he always does. Number 1, Vince McMahon in the hospital. The last segment was a little dark. Let's end this on a bright spot. On the October 5th, 1998 episode of Raw, the Brothers of Destruction laid out Vince McMahon, causing him to be sent to a local medical facility. That's where the fun begins. You see, Austin was still upset that McMahon had screwed him from winning the title and went out to seek revenge. So Vince told the nurse not to allow any visitors. But that did not stop Mankind from showing up with balloons and Yerpel the Clown. He also debuted Mr. Sacco, the greatest puppet in wrestling history. Vince was furious and made them leave. The next segment saw a nurse checking his vitals, and when Vince asked if everything was alright, she asked the doctor. When Vince heard the Texas Rattlesnake's voice, his whole demeanor changed. Austin attacked the chairman while he was in the hospital bed, pummeling him with fists and attacking his bad leg. The most iconic moment happened when Stone Cold took a bedpan and smacked the genetic jackhammer on the head with it. The selling of Vince is something to be seen. Yes, more Attitude Era chaos, but nobody can deny how much fun it was to see McMahon get his comeuppance. Mix that in with a comedy of Mick Foley and the introduction of a silly icon, and you have the makings of one of the best Offsite segments in the history of the WWE. And that's our list. Which ones were your favorite? Was your favorite left off the list? Want us to do a top 10 list that we haven't yet? Let us know in the comments. If you like this list, why don't you click on the like and subscribe button? It helps us out greatly. Even if you don't though, I've been Rob from the We Are Marks crew. I hope you are having a wonderful day. And until next time, enjoy your wrestling.